famine. They went there. Even Naomi said they went there full. Why? Because Naomi has her husband and then 2 sons. Now, they went there because of famine, hoping and thinking that they're just going to stay there just, as the famine get by. But that's not the story happens, because what? Their 2 sons get married in Moab. That's why Naomi got Ruth and Orpah, the 2 daughter-in-law. Now, unfortunately, you know what happens? The 2 sons died without any children. And because of that, Naomi decided to go back in her hometown. Now, as she went back, actually she said, "Don't call me Naomi anymore, but call me Mara." Means bitterness. Because I went full and I came back nothing but herself. But did Naomi went back to Bethlehem as her hometown by herself? No. She got the hope. Ruth was the hope. Because out of Ruth came down the marriage of Boaz with Ruth. And out of Boaz and Ruth came out Obed. And out of Obed came out Jesse. And out of Jesse came out David. And out of David came out the earthly parents of our rabbi, Joseph and Miriam. If we go back to the history, if Naomi's son did not die in Moab, and Naomi's son and Ruth got a son, do you think Naomi is going to go back in Bethlehem empty? It will never be. The reason being is, even before we understand the concept why Father Yah killed both of the sons of Ruth, because Father Yah has a plan that out of a Moabite will came. All out of that Moabite woman that Father Yah brought with Naomi will sprung the genealogy of our rabbi. And sometimes when we experience tragedy in our life, we only grasp what is in front of us. We cry as if Father Yah punished us. We cry as if it is the end of the world. But if we are going to go back and see what Father Yah is doing, if we understand the concept of Romans chapter 8 verse 28 that says all of these things that comes into us, into you or unto me, is for our own good. Hallelujah. Hope should not die when we feel the tragedy. Hope should flickering even in our heaviest part of our life. Remember Joseph? Joseph was sold by his brother in Genesis chapter 45 verse 5. You know the story. Joseph was sold by his brothers. He became a servant of Potiphar for almost a year. He was put into prison for 12 years for the things that he did not commit. But Joseph did not lose that hope. did not forget what his brother did. He never forget it. And sometimes we are thinking that those who wrong us, we should forget it. No, we will never forget it, but we can forgive them. We cannot forget those things, but we will forgive them like Joseph did. Now, when I say you cannot forget it, meaning it just happens, but it is not, you are not holding it against the one who did it to you. That's when I say you cannot forget it. You remember what happened, but you forget. And that thing that count them against what they did. Because what Joseph did, or what Joseph said in Genesis 45 verse 5, this is what he said. For us to give the idea that if people wrongs us, we don't need to seek vengeance on what they did. Because if you understand what these brothers did, they suffer for themselves already. If you understand the concept of those exchange of words with Joseph and his brothers, these brothers already suffered for what they did. But take a look at what Joseph said to them in Genesis chapter 45 verse 5. Hear what it is. Genesis 45 verse 5. This is what Joseph said to his brother, to his brothers. Let us go a little bit above it on verse 4. So Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near, and he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt." Did they forget even after 13 plus 12, almost 20 years happened? Almost 20 years happened, and Joseph never forget that. But he is not counting it against his brother. Why? Because Joseph knows what happened to him was allowed by the Father. That's why Joseph said in verse 5, "And now do not be distressed or angry with yourself because you sold me here." Don't be angry for yourself. And take a look at the last word. He says, "Father Yah sent me before you to preserve life." There is a reason why Joseph needs to suffer. There is a reason why his brothers need to sell them, to sell him, going to Egypt. But during those moments, those years that Joseph was in prison, I know Joseph probably asking question why it is happening to him. The favorite son of his father, and yet he is suffering in a prison that he did not commit, for a crime he did not commit. We grieve, yes we do. But we know the fact that a gold is never been a gold and never been a pure gold unless it is tested by fire. The same thing with us. Our faith will never be considered a faith with what we call a strong faith, built in a foundation that is our rabbi, if we are not going to suffer sometimes grief in our life. In 1 Samuel, here's another one. 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 11. Here's the story of Saul with Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 11. Let's go to verse 10. The word of Father Yah came to Samuel. I regret that I have made Saul king. Now, are we going to find our Almighty Father Elohim that tells us, I regret that I choose you to know my name? We know that we are so blessed to know His name. Out of 7.8 billion in this world, not many knows His name. Not many knows His statutes. Not many knows the name of His Son. Not many knows His word. But out of the 12 tribes, He chooses Benjamin's tribe and chooses Saul to be the first king of Israel. Why? Because Israel asked for a king. Father Yah did not intend them for a king. But Israel said, we want a king. Even Samuel during his time pleaded with Israel. But Father Yah said, give them what they want. Because Samuel, you are not the one they don't want. I am the one that they don't want. That's why I said, in here, I grieve that I choose Saul. But take a look at what Samuel said, or what he thinks. For he has turned back from following me and has not performed my commandments. And Samuel was angry, and he cried to Almighty Yah all night. Because Samuel thinks that Saul is a good man and a right for the king. But Father Yah said, no, he's not. Because if Father Yah follow what Samuel think for the good of Israel, then Father Yah is not going to choose David as a replacement for Saul. And sometimes we think human beings knows better for us. And even think that sometimes we think best for us. That sometimes we talk to the Father and say, let me do this for me. Just stay in there, Father. Yeah, I will do it for my own. Is that what we do sometimes? Yes, we do. And I can raise my hand because there are times that I did here in the United States that I do some decisions in my life that I never consulted. I thought I know better. First thing, I resigned from Lennox High School. I thought Father Yah wants me to resign and went to a charter school. I thought I would be better. Why? Because I've been asking Father Yah to transfer me to another school. But after almost 8 years, Father Yah didn't say anything. So I took matters on my own hand and said, I will do the transferring. So when an open slot happens in a charter school, I resigned February 7th. And I went to a charter school. I thought I will be better. But after just almost 2 weeks, I took my bag and get out of the room, going home. Because if Lennox High School is what you call not a good school, in that charter school, I say it's the worst school in my life as a teacher. I just get my bag and turn my back and say, I'm going home. Now, did you know that in America, if something happens inside your room, without you as the teacher, you are liable. And you can be sued for what you're doing. But I don't care anymore. I said, I'm going home. Actually, even decided to go home back in the Philippines. That was my mistakes. So after that, I said, Father Yah, you choose things for me. Sometimes we need to learn from our mistakes, and sometimes it's either we learn quick or we learn hard, the hard way. And I'm giving this as a testimony to my children that sometimes on our own way of understanding, we take matters into our hand, thinking that we know better. No, we're not. Learn from our mistakes. You don't ask for a navigation from somebody that never went there. If you go to New Orleans, ask Brother and our Pastor Wesley where to go with the roads where you're going. Don't ask me, who knows only one road going to New Orleans. The same thing in life. Because otherwise you're going to experience what we experience. Grief and grief and grief. But in every grief that we do, there's always hope. In 1 Samuel chapter 30 verse 1, there's another story. Now this story is about David. Now David in here has 3 wives already. Well, he's already a king in here. But even though David was a king in this story, he did not took the kingship yet from Saul. That's humbleness, isn't it? Even though David was anointed as king by Samuel already,